Hi guys, welcome back. In today's video, we are going to be discussing about action construction equipment ka Concall. So what went down in the Q4 FY24 Concall. I will also try to cover Anup engineering in the video if I can, or I'll do another video where I'll cover both the Concall as well as the result update. Okay. So first, let us start with action construction equipment. I believe I've already covered the Q4 ka result update, and the Q4 result update has, like always, has been very stunning. We saw that both the my mic is on. Yeah. We saw both that the result, if you look at the revenues on a year-on-year basis, that grew by 38%. And we saw PAT also double on a year-on-year basis. Similarly, even in QOQ basis also, we saw a lot of changes, right? I think even in QOQ basis also, the company like grew 9.4%, the sales, and PAT was up by 11%. So in all parameters, if you see, like in everything, we see that, from the income statement to the balance sheet to the cash flows, all of it was solid. There was no problem, right? So now let us go and see into like Concall what has happened and what does the guidance look like for the coming financial year, that is FY24-25. Okay. So first, let us start with their four segments. So as you all know, action construction equipment has four segments. One is cranes, material handling equipment. Then we have the construction equipment, and we have the agricultural equipment. Of course, if you look at their share of pie, cranes is the huge part because they have 63% market share when you talk about the mobile and tower cranes, right? And if you look at their entire revenue also, even now 72% is coming from cranes, around 13% comes from construction equipment, which is your backhoe loaders. I think commonly we call this backhoe loaders by the brand name, the JCB, right? So that is where 13% of the revenue comes. 7% of the revenue comes with your material handling equipment, and 8% from your agricultural equipment. Okay, so material handling equipment matlab aapne dekho hoga in warehouse, right? You will use those machines to lift the huge products that are there, the bulk of products that you transfer. We call it as forklift machines. So those comes under the material handling equipment. And the last thing is, of course, agricultural equipment. We talk about various kinds of tractors and other things. Now, first, let us start with cranes, right? If you see, one thing over here is we saw that in cranes, especially in the cranes division, they have been telling like every quarter, that is, since the time of this financial year in FY24, we saw that they came and they kept increasing the guidance, right? 15%, 20%. And in Q3, they told that they have increased the guidance for cranes to grow by 25%. And of course, a company like always, the company like always has done that also, because if you see the cranes division, the revenue from the cranes division grew by around 36% on a year-on-year basis, right? Even in terms of volume and value basis also, you see that it has grown by 37%. When you talk about the construction handling equipment, even that grew in terms of volume. If I have to tell you, it grew by 50%, right? And even the margins over there also has been quite very strong, because same time last year it was 9.5%, and this time it is 12.84%. Material handling also recorded a good revenue, I would say 8.6%. There also margin has slightly improved. Last time the 12.3, this time it is 13.2. The only thing is agricultural equipment. Again, not worried a lot about this year, because agricultural equipment just contributes 8%. The revenue hardly grew by 12%. Of course, the volumes has not been really that great, because here one thing with agricultural equipment is same. First of all, it is really dependent on harvest season. That is number one thing. And second is there has been a lot of change in norms over here, which has resulted in this, a kind of like a very flat growth, I would say, not just for Ace. Actually, if you look at even other companies also, if you sell tractors, it's very muted growth only, right? So not a lot of changes. But I think we should be worried about cranes, because that is a huge pie or a huge chunk in revenue, and that has been done. So all in all, if you see also, everything has been, everything has been achieved over here, whatever they've told, because they told that they'll grow the revenue by 30%, and we've seen it has been more than that only. We've seen cranes also has done the similar kind of effect. So everything is all set and done. Now, if you look, what is more important is how does the see, until now what they've done is great, right? But I keep telling you guys ki, like, market is a forward looking engine, so aage ka kya hai hame wo dekhna padega, right? So in terms of capex, agar aap dekhte ho, see, first of all, in capex they've done a lot of capex in the past only, right? Most of the capex they've done, especially with the construction equipment. Actually, if you look at the construction equipment, they were lagging behind, right? They hardly have right now also like 2.5 to 3% market share, because majority of the market share share is with this brand called JCB. I think everybody knows it. It's quite popular, right? I mean, in fact, like our brain is programmed to think like whenever we think of backhoe loaders, we tell JCB, right? Like that's how prominent the brand is, right? So if you look capex ka plan, like earlier they had done a capex, right, to increase the cranes, right, to increase the production of the cranes and also the construction handling equipment. That has been very fruitful because of that capex they did in the past. We see that the cranes ka division that is there, the capacity is increased by 46%. So earlier they were doing 9,000 cranes a year. This time they're producing 13,200 cranes. Similarly with material handling equipment also, and we've seen that, right, the result is quite there in terms of number also, that we see like 50% ka increase. Now overall, if you look in terms of capex, the only thing is, if you remember last quarter they had acquired a land, so not much update on what is happening with that land, because they unka कहना था कि like see, earlier if you look, they had guided to grow in FY23 ka revenue was around 2,400 crores, and they wanted to double it in FY26, and they told FY26 ka revenue will be 4,600 crores. So with all the capacity they have right now, they can only achieve that 4,600 crores in revenue. Okay, so they acquired this land, so they can target 5,500 crores revenue in FY27. So that is the only capex right now that we see, and not much has come out in terms of that capex, actually, like us land ke sath kya hoga when the capex will be started, nothing of that sort. Other than that, if you see unka jo naya products, what are the new products they're getting up, they're getting this different types of forklifts, they're developing different types of crane, right? So even there also it is good. The only thing they're very bullish on right now is a defense space, because if you see last time also defense was very prominent for them, right? I mean in Q3 update I would have mentioned over there, like, it has been very, very strong. Right now, if you see, for the full year, defense revenue is contributing 2.5% of the revenue. And they have around 65 crores of order book in hand. And probably in this year, in 2 to 3 months, they can get a confirmation of, around 650 to 700 crore order book only from the defense itself. So that is where they're really bidding on the defense space right now. So overall, great. The other update is, I think you would see in last quarter, we saw this electric cranes that is getting delayed because of the regulatory norms, right? Because they have the product ready, but right, there is this commission board, the regulatory board, which sets up the rules and everything. So there, what has happened, it is getting delayed in terms of regulation, in terms of licensing and everything, because as you know, elections here, and because of elections, everything is getting delayed. And now companies telling like probably this will go through in July, because election gets over in June. So probably in July, we should see this, right? The only thing I will tell you here, we see right now the most important thing from ASCA Concall, I will tell you, is to capture is in terms of guidance. Because we have seen, right, like I told you, the last 3 quarters they came and they've always increased the guidance, right? Like 15%, 20%, 20, 25, 30, always, every quarter they came, they've increased the guidance. In Q4, in this quarter, they came and they've revised the guidance actually, which is not a good sign, right? Like, of course, anybody telling you, I'm giving you 10 apples and they'll give you 15 apples, and tomorrow they come and tell you, मैं 15 apples से आपको like सिर्फ 10 apple दे दूंगी. So it's not really a good sign for an investor. So company का कहना है कि like because of this election season that is coming up, right, and the monsoons are also quite early this time. So because of that, they see a muted growth in the range of 15 to 20%. So going forward, earlier the guidance was 30%. Now they've revised the guidance to 50 to 20%. And going forward, they will see like as and when the situation improves, they might revise the guidance, right? And in fact, because see, Q4 ka result is Jan, Feb, March, but Concall happens in May, right? So you're already like into 60 days into Q1. And somebody had asked you like, April and May ka month kaisa raha aapka, because we were already in the month of May. And company and the management, the director, the Saurabh Agarwal, clearly mentioned ki like they experienced muted growth in April and May. So it is a word of caution ki like probably going forward for the first 2 quarters, you could see some sort of an impact, some sort of an impact due to these elections, because a lot of people are, not buying. They're kind of like just keeping their cash, I think, in, I don't know, in FD or something. They don't want to like buy this, especially because Jan to March, we saw really great momentum in terms of purchase of this vehicle. And now, the same momentum that we saw until March is not continued in April and May. So probably on a year-on-year basis also, you could see a good growth. But in terms of QOQ, there could be some kind of impact, and probably you will see that the revenue growth, which used to grow in the order of like north of 30 to 40%, will drop to like 50 to 20%, at least for the first 2 quarters. But going forward, usually, again, this is usually a phenomena because see, ACE has been in the business for 25 years, and of course, in 25 years, we've had so many elections, right? So, unka कहना है कि like one is because of these elections, one there is this, people are not purchasing, and once elections are over, a lot of pent up demand will open up, right? Because and that can be translated in terms of Q2. Probably, even though monsoons are there, Q2 may we can have a strong quarters because pent up demand will be there, right? Because nobody is buying in the first 3 months of Q1, and they can go and purchase in Q2, right? So this is one thing. I think in terms of guidance, I can tell you is like, of course, it's not a good thing, but the company is still intact with your long-term guidance. So I think the situation over here can only be analyzed after Q2 and see like if it's going to continue with that 50 to 20% growth. But if it does continue with that 50 to 20% growth, then at this valuation, the fall in pace of growth is not a good sign. But hopefully, it is just a temporary thing only for this one quarter, and we see the earnings momentum come back. The last thing I want to highlight is, if you look at the construction equipment, right, you see they have increased their capacity by 50%, and they've been doing a lot of changes over here. They're trying to grab the market share and everything. So here, one thing to note is that I think in April 1st of last year, I think in April 1st or so of this year, it was supposed to be, the regulatory norms were supposed to be changed, right? And they got a deferment of 6 to 7 months to get it changed. All the association of this board got it to be changed and got it deferred for 6 to 7 months. So what is happening with this construction equipment is, let's say if there is any engine that is less than 50 horsepower, okay. So what is happening with that is the emission, because of this, any engines that is less than 50 horsepower and less, those small engines will be moving from BS3 regulation to BS5. So since you're skipping, it's a huge change, right? BS3 to BS5. So as a result, the price range over here will be around the range of, like 6 to 12% in that range. Whereas anything that is less than 50 horsepower, those engines which are less than 50 horsepower, not less than, more than 50 horsepower, they are moving from BS4 to BS5. So the product price hike will be 4 to 5%. Okay. So now, because of these two changes, what is happening? Also, like ACE ka product portfolio, if you look, 60% of the product portfolio is in that BS4 to BS5, and 40% of the product portfolio is between BS3 to BS5. So now, because of this, also the buying has little bit reduced, because nobody would want to buy an old, an old. Regulatory norm old regulatory norm this one also. So combined effect of both elections, monsoon, and this regulatory changes is the reason you will see that Q1 can be muted in terms. But probably again, the pent up demand is going to come back after the elections, and then because of this regulatory norms, you're going to see a lot of buying pressure, right? Because the price hike that will take is in the north of 10, more than 10% for BS3 to BS5. So because of that, a lot of pre-buying can happen in this space. So because of that, also there could be an early, a lot of good growth in Q2 quarter. So this is one thing I will tell you right now with ACE is to be a bit of caution. I would say that, right? Because we do not know if this 50 to 20% growth is going to continue for the full year. They are only going to continue for like 1 or 2 quarters, and we see the earnings momentum get back in Q3 and Q4. But overall, the company, even right now, they've been very strong with in terms of guidance. They're like telling you, like, we will clock that 4,400 crore revenues in FY26, and in FY27 we will do 5,500 crores. There is no stopping us. In fact, they're telling that we will 3x the revenue in 5 years, and that is what they mentioned. I mean, in one side they tell like Q1, I mean, muted growth, but in the other side they're telling like 3x in 5 years. That is what they're targeting. That is their internal guidance. So only thing, again, like I told you, the only thing that we can do is just wait and watch and see how the entire situation progresses after Q2. I think that is what will give more clarity. But hopefully, this is that one such company, I think, because they've been very, very consistent. Hopefully the earnings momentum is back with the company. So that's that with ACE ka update. I will do Anup Engineering ka update in another video, right? That's that. Bye.